This is the story of a young man who gave every single one of his 20s to hard work. He followed every rule, ignored every shortcut, and did exactly what he was told would lead to a better life. And yet, at 32, he had nothing to show for it. No savings. No progress. No future he could actually picture. Until one evening, on the rooftop of an old textile shop in his hometown, a retired electrician said 11 words to him that quietly rewired everything he believed about work, money, and time. What that old man told him is something most people never hear. And the few who do, usually hear it far too late. Before we start, tell me 2 things in the comments. How old are you right now, and which city are you watching this from? I read every single one. In a crowded city full of honking rickshaws and the smell of frying samosas, there lived a 32-year-old man named Imran. Imran was not lazy. That was what confused everyone around him, and it confused him most of all. He woke before sunrise. He worked 2 jobs, one at a warehouse and one delivering parcels at night. He sent money to his aging parents every single month without missing once. He had followed every instruction handed to him since childhood. Study hard. Never complain. Keep your head down. Be grateful for what you have. But at 32, Imran still shared a cramped room with 3 other men. His shoes were falling apart at the sides. His old phone had a spider web crack across the screen that he kept promising himself he'd fix once things got easier. He had been promising himself that for almost 4 years. He had tried to change his path more than once. He applied for a supervisor position that went instead to the warehouse owner's nephew. He enrolled in an online electronics repair course and quit after 2 weeks because his eyes simply refused to focus on a screen after 14 hours on his feet. He had started saving money exactly once, only for his younger sister's college admission fee to swallow every rupee in a single afternoon. What truly broke something inside Imran wasn't the poverty itself. It was the confusion. He was doing everything right. He had followed every rule anyone had ever given him. And somehow, he was standing exactly where he had started 10 years ago. His mother called him one Friday night. Her voice sounded thinner than usual. "Beta, your father isn't well. We thought by this age you would have found some stability. We hoped things would be lighter for you than they were for us." Imran said what he always said. "They will be, Ami. I'm working on it." He hung up and sat motionless on the edge of his mattress. Outside, the city carried on with its usual noise. Horns, distant music, someone's pressure cooker whistling 3 floors down. The world kept moving. He stayed frozen. One single thought kept knocking, over and over, refusing to leave. "I work harder than almost anyone I know. So why am I not moving forward at all?" The answer arrived from the last place Imran expected. His uncle lived in the small town where Imran had grown up, 2 hours outside the city. On a rare visit home, Imran climbed up to the flat rooftop of his uncle's building just to escape the noise and questions. Downstairs, an old man was already up there, kneeling beside a tangle of wiring, repairing an ancient ceiling fan motor with the unhurried patience of someone who had fixed 1,000 broken things before. His name was Ostad Rashid. He had worked as an electrician for nearly 40 years. He didn't own anything impressive. A small rented repair shop. An old motorcycle held together by stubbornness. A modest two-room house. But all three of his children had finished university, and his wife hadn't needed to work a single day since their youngest was born. He wasn't wealthy by any normal measure, but something about him felt unmistakably free. Imran sat against the low rooftop wall and simply watched him work. After a while, the old man glanced up without stopping his hands. "You have the face of someone carrying a heavy question," he said. Imran laughed, caught off guard. "I'm trying to understand something," he admitted. "Why do some people work themselves half to death and never move an inch forward?" Ustad Rashid set down his screwdriver. He shifted to sit across from Imran on an overturned plastic crate, studying him for a long moment as if deciding something important. "Tell me," he said. "What do you do with your time when you're not working?" Imran thought honestly. "Sleeping. Scrolling my phone. Sometimes I try to study something new, but I'm usually too exhausted." The old man nodded slowly, not with judgment but with quiet recognition. "Then let me ask a different question," he said. "What are you building?" Imran didn't understand. Ustad Rashid leaned forward slightly. "Every person alive is either building something or maintaining something," he said. Maintaining means repeating the same tasks every single day just to stop your life from getting worse. Building means doing something every day that makes next year genuinely different from this one. He paused, letting it land. Most people spend their entire lives maintaining. They work. They rest. They repeat the exact same cycle. And they wonder, year after year, why nothing ever changes. Nothing changes because maintaining, no matter how exhausting it feels, never creates anything new. Something shifted in Imran's chest. Uncomfortable, like heavy furniture being dragged across a dark room. "But I don't have time to build anything," he said. "I'm barely keeping my head above water as it is." "I know," the old man said gently. "That's exactly the trap. It feels like there's no time. But I'll tell you what I once told my own children, and what I wish someone had told me at your age." He held up a single finger. "You don't need more time. You need a different kind of time." He pulled a small, worn notebook from his shirt pocket, its cover soft from years of handling. His handwriting was the careful print of a man who had left school early but never stopped teaching himself things. He drew a straight line across the page. On the left, he wrote today. On the far right, he wrote 5 years from now. "Every person alive eventually arrives at this end of the line," he said, tapping the right side. "The only real question is what they find waiting for them when they get there." The people who arrive somewhere completely different didn't have extra hours in their day. They simply spent their hours differently. Then he drew a small circle in the exact middle of the line. "There's a kind of time that isn't work time, and isn't rest time," he explained. "I call it building time. It's the hour or two in your day when you're not serving anyone else's demands. When you're quietly adding something new to yourself." He tapped the circle twice. "Almost nobody finds this time, because they're waiting for the perfect conditions. When I'm less tired. When life slows down. When I finally have a bit more money. Those conditions never arrive on their own. You have to claim that hour before the conditions are ready." He wrote 3 lines beneath the circle. 1. Learn a skill that earns money, not a hobby, something someone will actually pay you for. Give it 1 focused hour daily for 1 full year. Not 1 week. 1 year. 2. Understand money before you have much of it. Read a single page every day about saving, spending, or basic business sense. 1 page is enough. People who understand money before it arrives tend to keep it once it does. People who don't, watch it disappear. 3. Guard your mind from people who only maintain. Spend more of your time near builders, even if it's only through books, videos, or stories. The people around you quietly shape what feels possible for you. This isn't a small detail. It's almost everything. He closed the notebook. The reason age matters isn't because some door slams shut at a certain number, he said. It's because the habits you build early are the ones that keep compounding for the rest of your life. Every year you spend building, the next year becomes a little easier. Every year you spend only maintaining, the next year stays exactly the same. He picked his screwdriver back up. You have time, he said. Just not as much as it feels like you have. Imran took the last bus back to the city that night. He sat with his cracked phone face down in his lap and never once picked it up. He kept turning over Ustad Rashid's 3 points in his mind, and one word in particular. Building. He had spent so many years focused purely on surviving that he had genuinely never asked himself what he was building. He got home close to midnight. He had to be up again at 6. That gave him exactly 6 hours of sleep. He set his alarm for 5 anyway. The next morning, his first instinct when the alarm rang was to silence it and sleep. He was exhausted, he was always exhausted, but he thought of his mother's tired voice on the phone. He thought of Ustad Rashid on that rooftop, completely unbothered by his modest life, completely free. He sat up. He opened his phone and found a free course on basic electrical wiring and appliance repair. Something every household eventually needed. Something that required no expensive equipment or formal degree. He watched 25 minutes of it before making his morning tea. Then he read 1 page of an old finance book his coworker had once lent him and he had never opened. Then he left for work. Nothing dramatic happened that day. Or the next week. Or even the month after. He was still tired. The room was still small and crowded. His mother still sounded worried every Friday. But something quiet had shifted underneath the surface. For the first time in years, Imran wasn't only maintaining. He was building. And that quiet knowledge felt like solid ground finally forming beneath feet that had been treading water for a decade. By the 4th month, Imran had finished the appliance repair course and earned a basic certification. He had read 30 pages about money. He had started tracking every rupee he spent and discovered, to his genuine shock, that he was quietly losing almost 3,000 rupees a month on things he couldn't even name if someone asked him directly. He cut them without hesitation. He started saving what remained. By month 7, a shopkeeper 2 streets away, whose ceiling fan had been broken for weeks, asked around and was pointed toward Imran. He fixed it in 20 minutes. The shopkeeper paid him and mentioned him to 2 neighbors. By month 12, Imran had a small, steady stream of weekend repair jobs. Fans, water heaters, simple wiring faults. His weekend earnings alone had begun to outpace either of his 2 full-time jobs. He left the delivery job first. Then, eventually, the warehouse. He called his mother. "Ami, I need to tell you something. I think I finally understand what I was doing wrong all these years." She went quiet for a moment. Then, "Tell me, Beta." "I was working incredibly hard," he said, "but I was trapped inside the wrong kind of effort. I thought my circumstances were the trap. But the real trap was that I only knew how to maintain my life. Nobody had ever taught me how to build it." There was a long pause on the line. "Who taught you this?" "An old electrician, Ami. On a rooftop. He was fixing a ceiling fan and somehow ended up explaining my entire life to me." His mother laughed, a real, unguarded laugh he hadn't heard from her in over 2 years. 2 years after that rooftop conversation, Imran ran his own small appliance repair service out of a proper rented shop, with his name painted above the door. He wasn't wealthy. He wasn't finished. But he was building something. Every single day. And he could physically feel the difference between that life and the one he had been living before. He still woke early. Not because he had to anymore, but because those quiet hours before the world made its demands felt like the only hours that truly belonged to him. He often thought about Ustad Rashid. He never went back to that rooftop, never crossed paths with him again. He didn't need to. The old man had already given him the one thing that had genuinely been missing his whole life. Not money. Not connections. Not luck. A single question he had never once thought to ask himself. What am I building? My friend Imran's story was never really about fixing ceiling fans. It isn't about waking up early, or saving a few thousand rupees, or landing his first client. It's about one single shift in understanding that quietly rewrites everything that comes after it. Most people aren't trapped by their circumstances. They're trapped by their strategy. We're taught that hard work alone is enough. It isn't. Hard work inside a maintaining life simply produces a more exhausted version of the exact same life. Hard work inside a building life produces an entirely different future. The difference was never effort. The difference is direction. And here's the part of that rooftop lesson Imran most wants you to hear. You don't need to be free of your current responsibilities to start building. You need 1 hour. One consistent, protected, non-negotiable hour that belongs to the future version of yourself, not to today's endless demands. 1 hour a day adds up to 365 hours a year. That's roughly 9 full working weeks, poured entirely into one skill, one idea, one discipline. That is more than enough to change everything. So here's what to actually do. Tonight, before you sleep, answer one honest question. What am I building? Not what am I surviving? Not what am I merely managing? What am I actually building? If you can't answer that right now, that silence is your answer. And tomorrow is a good day to begin changing it. Find your one skill. Give it 1 hour. Protect that hour like it's the single most important meeting on your calendar. Because it is. It's a meeting with the person you're slowly becoming. Ustad Rashid was right about age mattering. Not because any door slams shut at a certain number, but because the people who start building earlier simply get more years of compounding growth ahead of them. Every year spent building makes the next year a little easier. Every year spent only maintaining keeps everything frozen exactly where it already is. You have time. Just not as much as it quietly feels like you do. If you're ready to stop only maintaining and start actually building something, drop one word in the comments right now. The one skill you're going to start with. Just one word. Let's hold each other to it. Share this with someone who's working incredibly hard right now and somehow getting nowhere. Not to shame them, but because sometimes all a person needs is the right question, asked at the right moment, by someone who noticed the weight they were quietly carrying. And remember what Imran learned on a dusty rooftop from an old man fixing a ceiling fan. The question was never how hard are you working. The real question has always been, what are you building?